So I was on Michigan, the most recent national title game, for $80,000. Even though I won $80,000 on that Michigan game, I lost over six figures on a Sacramento Kings regular season NBA game where they were up 6 points late in the game, and LaMelo Ball actually committed a flagrant foul. So now the Kings are up 6. They're getting 2 free throws and a ball, and they lost the game.
How much time was left?
Like 15 seconds. I'll remember that beat for the rest of my life.
What's up, everybody? You've got Ryan, the CEO of DubClub here. I'm with Albert from AnalyticsCapper. We're jumping straight in to this episode on the CEO Corner, where premium sports content creators like Albert share behind the scenes about their business, their families, their personal lives, how they came to be doing what they're doing. Let's start with Albert. Where are you coming from? You're out here in the Bay Area, but what's the original location?
First of all, Ryan, thank you for having me. It's been just an honor just to meet the entire team, be inundated with the company. It's been amazing so far. The home base for me is Dallas, Texas, but this is my second home away from home. I went to Cal Berkeley a long time ago. I'm not going to tell you the dates.
Big rival, big rival of Stanford.
But yeah, I love the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, and it's good to spend some time here in the office. You met some of the team already. It's a small skeleton crew today. Half the team is sick, unfortunately, but you've met most of the Chicago team.
Yeah.
So it's great having you involved in the DubClub story and getting your business rocking and rolling recently. Speaking of which, I always like to think every great entrepreneur, every business builder, everyone who, you and I have talked about the entrepreneurial mindset, they all start somewhere. Jeff Bezos wasn't born and immediately thought, I'm going to start Amazon. Like, there's some story behind it. Talk to me about your first big sports betting memory and how that may have influenced what ended up coming about with AnalyticsCapper.
Yeah, so there's two, I guess you would say, like, pivot points throughout my betting career. We all bet when we were younger and smaller, right? Whether that's with your family, your friends, or even like a local bookie. But it wasn't until sophomore year of college, so when I was at Cal, Haas School of Business, I was really I'm an economics major, so it's all about numbers, stats, analytics, things like that, hence my name. So I paid for my second year of tuition through betting. So once that happened, I was 19 and a half, 20 years old. Once that happened, I was like, I think this could be sustainable moving forward. I continued to bet through my years into my 20s, things like that, but it wasn't a business, right? And then COVID hit. So 2020 hit, and I tell this story all the time, but the only sports, potentially, I don't even know if it's real, not looking back on it, but the only sports that was going on at the time, those who have followed me since 2020, you guys know, it was Russian table tennis.
Yes.
And they were playing like behind these, blinds and curtains. Like, we didn't even know it was real, but at the same time, I created a Twitter account. I started live tweeting the actual matches. It started at 11 p.m., 11 p.m. Central my time every night. So I would put the kid down, hang out with the wife, and then I'll be like, well, I gotta go watch some Russian table tennis. And then, fast forward weeks and months, my account just started growing. I started to create connections between some of the players, how they would serve, how they would return serve, things like that. And then slowly but surely, the rest of the sports world came back post-COVID. So soccer, like Belarusian soccer, the PGA Tour without fans, KBO, all these sports came back, and I think people were thirsty for this type of analytics or analysis when it comes to statistics and trends and connections. Now everybody's doing it, but back 4 or 5 years ago, I felt like I was one of the first pioneers on Twitter. So that's how it's really grown.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating story that you started out with Russian table tennis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simultaneously hilarious, but also very inspiring. And you made a comment to me earlier, which I want to touch on, and that is, you can find an edge. If you're good at finding edges, you can find it in almost any sport. Mm-hmm. If you're really good, right? If you get numbers, if you get statistics, if you have a mathematical mind, which you do. Talk to me about some of the edges that you found in Russian table tennis, and talk to me about some of your, if you had any, some favorite players.
Yeah, we're going
Throwing it back,
we're
yeah.
going deep into the archives. So first of all, I don't do Russian table tennis anymore. I don't even know if it still exists or if they're still playing. I'm sure they do. But the biggest things I would really focus on back in summer 2020 was slow starters versus quick starters.
What do you mean by that?
It was a best of 5 set, so very similar to like major tennis.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like best out of 5, and a lot of these players, even though they're like minus 200 or minus 300 on the money line, they lose that first or second set. So there's a lot of value in live betting when it comes to Russian table tennis.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce their names, but I could say, I think one of them was Nimashkalo, something like that.
Yeah.
And he was a
Right.
really, really great returner on his forehand side. And I remember it really well because when the clutch points, it's first to 11 points. But once they got to like 9-9 or 9-10 and he was actually returning serve, I felt very confident and I would add more to my position.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what's fascinating as I think about you as the individual and then you as the business owner, that during COVID, you were giving advice to people on what to bet on Russian table tennis wise. Really, finding an edge is your product, right? Like, you're also a salesperson, which we'll get into. But what you just described to me and some of the trends that you were picking up on, that is the product offering, is it not?
Yeah, definitely. So I definitely think that finding edges from a statistical standpoint is sports agnostic. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's English Premier League or boxing or the NFL. I think if you could find 3 or 4 principles that you stick to and really kind of just build permutations out of that, I think you could be really, really successful. The most successful handicappers, in my opinion, is the people that can marry everything together.
Yeah.
So not only the analytics, but the narratives, the trends, the human element of sports. I think that's when you can really become a very, very like dangerous bettor.
Yeah. And it's, how much time do you think you spend, or let me maybe rewind the clock. How much time do you think you were spending during COVID? And then how much time do you think you're spending now? Like, is there economies of scale concept with the knowledge you can accumulate and the pattern recognition you have as you do it more often? Because it's been 5 years.
Yeah, when you're building models, people call them models or simulations, things like that, from the ground floor, it just takes a lot more time.
Yeah.
So when Russian table tennis was starting at 11 p.m., I probably didn't go to bed until 2 or 3 in the morning. And the thing about Russian table tennis, because it's Russian time zone, right? They're playing for like 8 hours. So when I wake up, they're still playing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's the time
That's remarkable.
the time I spent back then was unsustainable, especially now with family and kids. But you're right. Once you build the models and once you have the principles to what your model may look like, I think it becomes a lot more efficient moving forward. So to answer your question today, I'm spending maybe 1 to 2 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And how many clients roughly do you have? Hundreds?
Yeah, it varies, right? The NFL season, football, college football is always the busiest.
Yep.
So there are some weekends, especially if it's like wild card weekend or something like that, I might hit, 4 digits in terms of subscribers. But
Wow.
if we're talking about just like a
solid.
steady flow, then in the low hundreds.
And you're giving out advice. You're running this, sports consulting business year round. Like do you take any time off, or is this a constant go for you?
No, it's actually one thing I'm very proud of is it's been like 4.5 years of every single day.
Yeah.
That includes the 3 days where I had my kids. That includes, anniversaries. That includes vacations, things like that. I think I'm very blessed because I have a family that's super supportive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I wasn't doing AnalyticsCapper, I would still be watching and consuming sports information and content anyways.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
at the same time, I'd rather just do something where it's helpful for me and helpful for the community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a passion project. I mean, it's something where you're going to do it anyways, and so you'd rather help more people win more together, which is why you're wearing that shirt.
Yes.
It's the slogan on the back of the shirt. It's our mission, help more people win more together. People like this solving a lot of really good problems out there with a lot of people that bet on sports don't really know what they're doing. Now, talk to me as if I'm someone that doesn't know anything about your offering, and step into yourself as, you know, the sales position that is the CEO role really of your business, AnalyticsCapper CEO. What would I get from subscribing to your DubClub? And specifically, what do you think differentiates your offering to some of the other potential premium services that are out there, whether advertised on Instagram or wherever I see them?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I don't want to like belittle or talk down to anybody else. I think what people are doing in this business and becoming successful is amazing, right? And also, I think the opportunity for all these handicappers and analysts and communities to kind of collaborate together is really going to help move the industry forward. With that being said, my stuff is very simple. I'm not doing parlays. I'm not doing, you know, anytime touchdown parlays, none of those prop bets. I primarily focus on sides and totals, which includes money lines and spreads. So if, you know, I think there's 14 baseball games tonight, right? I might have 2 or 3 edges out of that entire slate where it's either a over under or the money line. So it's very simple. My whole mantra in terms of winning more together is a long-term strategy, right? I'm not going to be the guy that's going to get you $100,000 hit one night. That's just not my principle. That's not my outlook in terms of handicapping sports and handicapping these edges. I would rather go 3-2 for the remainder of my life, right? 365 days of the year. If I could win 1 unit, like that's really pretty, right? So for me,
calculate that for me. So that means I start with $100 of bankroll. Let's do $1,000 bankroll. Like I set aside $1,000 in my bankroll to bet on sports. Like I get paid, you know, a couple $1,000s a month, whatever. $1,000 goes to betting. You're up 365 units at the end of 365 days of betting. So I'm now up 365 because I tailed you. What does that $1,000 turn into at 365 units?
Yeah, good question. So hypothetically, this is all hypothetical because I'm not 365 units up this year.
I mean that's insane if you were. But generally, like call it like whatever general.
Yeah. So usually
translate the terminology for us.
Yeah, I think the rule, depending on who you talk to, 1 unit is 1 to 3% of your bankroll. So let's say Ryan has $1,000 and he's going to bet $10 a game. So up 365 units would be, you know, $3,600, right? Yep. That's amazing. That's $3,000 that you wouldn't have had, or maybe you would be down by just like going through sports betting without having a real program or a real strategy behind it. So that's
important.
Yeah, that's where I focus on, is like building a portfolio, whether it's a daily thing, a weekly thing, or even a monthly thing, where you're gonna end up having 9 out of 12 months in the profits.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions for you because I'm just kind of curious to unpack a little bit of what your perception might be of the answers to these questions. But let's start with what percentage generally do you think for people who bet on sports, what percentage do it for fun versus what percent do you think do it for money?
Yeah, I would say the majority, so 60, 70, 80% of the people are doing it for fun. If they're you know, going to Vegas with their boys for the weekend, probably 95% of the people are just doing it for fun. You know, they're putting in a Hail Mary parlay, which is fun, right? At the end of the day, if you're at a sports book, it's fun to follow. But again, that's just not my strategy when it comes to this. So in my opinion, again, everybody can be successful in their own way. In my opinion, to be successful is to win slowly, right? Try to win the day every single day. Obviously, that's a utopian dream. You can't just win every single day. But I think after a 365-day outlook and you're in the positive, that's great. A lot of people don't realize when it comes to parlays, for example, I mean, that's the most profitable thing from a sportsbook perspective, right? They're winning so much money off of these bettors, but it's fun and it's an entertainment thing, so I get it. But for someone like me, we talk about Russian table tennis, right? 4.5 years ago, I'm only betting maybe $100 to $200 a match. It could have been rigged, who knows? But I'm betting $100 on Russian table tennis. You fast forward to today, September 2024, my units are $3,000. So if I have a play, let's say the 49ers, right? We're in San Francisco. Let's say the 49ers this week for 6 units. I mean, that's an $18,000 bet
Yep.
that I couldn't have dreamed of 4 years ago.
Yep. A lot of what you said is fascinating to me. The one thing that I want to call out is the wake up every day and win the day. That sounds like something that should be on a poster as you walk out of a locker room. Win the day. It's like, all right, guys, let's go get out to practice and win this one. You got to put it at like, the hallway that goes into your bathroom every time you walk in and out of that bathroom.
Yeah.
It's like, boom, let's win the day. But what percentage of people who bet on sports do you think do it to make money? You answered how many you think do it for fun, but how many do you think are there to actually try to make money? You were pretty spot on for the people who do it for fun, by the way.
I think it's a small percentage of people, maybe 20% of people are there trying to make a living off of it, and only a fraction of that are truly successful at it. A lot of people don't realize like winning 50% is not bad, right? But if you add juice, right, the hold on books, you want to hit 55%. And if you're in the high 50s,
talk about that just so listeners understand what you mean by that. Like what does juice mean in the concept of if I have $10 that I'm putting down to a bet, how does the sports book make money and why would I be potentially losing money?
So let's say you want to win $10 for a San Francisco Giants bet, right?
Yep.
Baseball bet. If they are the favorites, you're going to have to put more. So let's say it's minus 120. You're going to have to put $12 down to win $10.
Yep.
That may not sound a lot, but when you're getting into the margins and these edges are so fine, 1 percentage point could mean whether you have a winning or losing month, year, 5 years. So the fact that if you're really successful in this business, you want to be hitting 55, 56, 57%, you're in the profits. If you're higher than that, A, you're either lying at the end of the day, or B, you're so good, you shouldn't even be on social media.
Yeah.
Like you want to be off the grid and just continue to cash. So props to you guys who are hitting like 65%.
Yeah, that's a very important point, and thank you for taking the time to answer that, because I don't think a lot of people realize that sports books make money from balancing the market, essentially. How does a stock exchange make money? I mean, there's always some level of arbitrage happening, and they call that the VIG in sports books. Don't need to get into that. That's too deep. I do have an important question for our listeners to get to know you a little bit more and how you view this. Do you do this for fun, or do you do it to make money, or both?
I'm a very, very competitive person by heart, and that's more internally competition, right? It's not me and other handicappers, we're going head to head, none of that, because I do think a high tide rises all boats. Like I speak about earlier, like I wish we would collaborate and work together more. I think that'd be great, and I think that's why DubClub as a company is such a great conduit to something like that, right? But for me personally, I am not going to sacrifice time away from my wife and my 3 kids if I'm just doing this for fun. So I definitely want to make money. I definitely want to.
So you do it for both.
Yes,
you do it for fun, and you do it to make money because you're quite good at it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've only been on Twitter for 4.5 years. We've won all 4.5 years.
Yeah,
so
that's incredible.
Until I lose, knock on wood, until I have a down year, like this is going to be a real business for me and a real stream of income for me.
Yeah, I get, and I think you're a testament to the fact that people can do it for fun and also not just make money. I mean, that I think is sort of like you're in the 3%, but make more money than they would otherwise. And that's really what DubClub is here to serve, not to do a spiel on us, but I mean, you're sort of core to our mission, which is help more people win more together. They don't know, generally most people don't know what they're doing if they don't have proper guidance. Like, I don't think that many people even understand what bankroll management is. The fact that like you need to set aside money, that you stay on a strict program of how much you bet per increment, so that you're not just throwing it away all on a single bet or like one parlay that could change your life. It's like, all right, well then you got to wait to the next paycheck in order to like do this activity again, which is really fun and really stress relieving for a lot of people. Last question in this segment: how many people in the U.S. alone do you think bet every week? I lied. Second to last question. How many do you think bet every week?
So
Give and take.
we're talking about legalized sports gambling throughout the country,
Yeah, like
and
they're betting on some
that's them
book, whether
working.
and I this is also like, you know, for the listeners that may get on me for saying that Prize Picks and the daily fantasy stuff is it's like it's betting. Like
Yeah,
it's you're making predictions, you know, on the outcome of a player performance. It's skill based for sure, more skill based than what, you know, the traditional like FanDuel DraftKings books will have, but it's still making a prediction. So tell me how many people in the U.S. alone that you think bet on sports every week?
yeah. So I think let's just say there's 50 million sports fans in this country. I think the fraction of that population is definitely growing each season as advertisements are thrown in our face, as collaborations are thrown in our face. So I think the formative years, so let's say you're 21 to 45, I'd say more than half of the people are betting. And honestly, once you get a taste of it, I'm not saying it's a drug. Like, I don't want it to be like a degenerate thing, but once you feel that rush, it becomes kind of like part of your Sunday if you're a big NFL guy, right? Whether it's fantasy or daily fantasy sports or betting, I think more than half of the adults in the country is doing something.
Do you want me to? So you're very close directionally. I think your instinct is right. What's might be shocking. I'll just go global and then I'll go U.S. But
Yeah.
1 in 2 people identify as a sports fan. So you said roughly 50 million Americans. That's 50 million out of 330 million, give or take. So that's 1 in 6. If my math is correct. In your prediction, it's actually it's closer to like 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 in the U.S. Identify as a sports fan, and then 1 in 12 Americans is betting every week.
Okay.
So roughly like 40 million.
Yeah.
You know, this is based on a bunch of public survey results, and also like I've done a lot of work with our user base and market panel stuff. You'll appreciate this, but I used to work at an investment firm that, like a venture capital firm that did a lot of diligence on consumer companies. So I did a lot of consumer research, and I got very accustomed to running surveys, which serves me very well as the CEO of DubClub because I like learning about our users and trying to make the experience better, which is why I do this podcast, because I like learning about you guys. But what I found was that, basically 1 in 12 respondents, or 1 in 10 roughly for my survey, bet on sports every week, which is pretty remarkable. And then you get into the follow-up to that, which is like, okay, well, there's 330 million Americans. How many do you think have a wealth manager for their money, like for financial assets?
I'd say less than 1%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Whenever I ask that question, it's always a really low number. It's 30%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So over 100 million Americans have a financial advisor. And the reason I think that that's such a good parallel is while it's not their direct income betting on sports, it's still fun and it's still a way to spend their money and invest their money. Instead of like traveling or instead of playing golf, you can set aside money to bet. But why would you just throw that away? Why wouldn't you use an advisor like AnalyticsCapper? And that's why I found this concept for a business so fascinating from day one. You know, when I was talking to folks like you early on, it just dawned on me. I was like, a lot of people have a wealth advisor, but not really many people use someone to let them know what they should be betting on, what not, ask them Q&A, get into it and really help their own acumen. So thank you for humoring me in that segment. I have a specific question as we get back to like your workflow and the product that you're offering, which is the research-backed plays, which for people he's giving advice on bets to make and bets he's making. Talk to me through that research process as if I'm someone that's subscribed to you. How do I know what is really going into the sausage making of what comes out the other end of the content delivery to me?
Yeah, so in my opinion, there's 3 or 4 main pivot points throughout the day, right? When I wake up, I'll look at the slate, and it's usually various sports, right? It's not just the NBA, the WNBA, hockey, but like everything, because we mentioned this earlier. I really feel if you have a good eye on things, it doesn't really matter what sports or what league you're focused on. So when I wake up in the morning, I'll definitely narrow what I think would be potential edges and looks that I want to dive deeper into later today. So I think the fact that you're using kind of like your intuition is really important for the first set of narrowing. And then once the day goes on, let's say 3 or 4 hours later, you dive deeper into the actual analytics and the trends and injuries, all that kind of stuff, right? Narrative, things like that.
Yeah.
That's where you narrow it even further. And then my whole thing is like, I'm not a quantity guy. And there's a lot of great quantity bettors out there, but for me,
Describe what that means really
yeah,
fast.
like even though there's 100 games, 100 sports games going on a daily basis, I'm really gonna put my well-earned money maybe to 3, 4, 5 of those games
Right. Yeah.
max. So I'm more about like low volume, high quality. And again, if I could go 3 and 2 every single day, I'm sitting pretty. So, and also I'm not doing huge money lines. I'm not doing parlays. So a lot of my juice or my vig is minus 105, minus 110. So going 3 and 2 is amazing. Yeah. In addition, sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off,
yeah, no,
Ryan.
no, no.
Like,
Keep going with if
yeah,
there's more to
just
the workflow. I think it's fascinating to
yeah. I
talk
mean,
through.
just becoming, just leveraging my economics brain. Both my parents were also mathematics professors in college,
Oh
so
wow,
like my entire life
good
has been
genes.
around, yeah,
You
has
were
been
built for
around
this.
numbers. So creating models and simulations, and now with technology and AI, you can leverage, your computer to do all of that. You can leverage your computer to do all that. So once I narrow it down to maybe the final 8 or 10 specific looks, then I'll run it through my models, and then that's where, I'll have 3 plays for today. So it's a combination of, intuition, combination of narratives and what is happening in the sports world in terms of the news, and then a combination of the analytics and the models behind it as well.
Could you give us some examples? So there's intuition, which I think stems from experience. It's pattern recognition. It's feel. It's like Steph Curry when he shoots a three. He's been in the gym for
Muscle memory.
yeah. It's muscle memory. It
Yeah.
just comes to you. So I get the intuition part. The news and the narratives that come about over the course of the day. Can you talk through an example of like whether it's a Saturday before a college football slate or even like a Sunday before NFL kicks off?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are you looking for, and what's an example of type of news that would be sending tingles up your spine?
Yeah, so
Spidey senses.
definitely situational spots. So a team that's lost like 8 games in a row, they haven't covered the spread, so they're also performing under expectations. Those are potentials where you can actually make money and find value in.
Yeah.
Other opportunities would be revenge games, right? Big rivalries where Clemson and South Carolina, they're played once a year, and Clemson's won the previous 8 matchups. You kind of look at South Carolina as potentially value there.
Yeah.
There's also like player movement, right? When it comes to now, even in college sports with the transfer portal.
Yep.
A good example was Monday night when Gabe Davis, Jacksonville, visits Buffalo. Everybody was on Gabriel Davis, the wide receiver, to either catch a touchdown, over over receptions prop or over reception yards, things like that. So it's a combination of all that, and then again, you're still going to lean on the patterns because of experience, the wisdom, the intuition, basically everything, man. I think where the industry goes wrong is when someone says, "Oh, I leverage my models," and that's all they do,
Yeah.
or I leverage the trends that they read on the in online or in the newspaper, and that's all they focus on. I
Yep.
think that's where people get in trouble.
Yeah. Again, I come back to your product offering is really the research that goes into the advice. The advice is the delivery of the product, essentially, is how I think about it. So if I relate that to like my business and DubClub and what we're doing, taking one user data point would be the equivalent of what you mentioned of just using one or like not even two things, just one thing that informs the decision that you're making to develop the product, which again is the advice. So I resonate with that. It's you're taking, I call them the answers to the test. Like you're getting a lot of data. You're just gathering a lot of inputs and you're using that to inform what ultimately goes out. Does that mean then you have to be online all the time? Like I know you said this only takes you a couple hours a day, but how have you built the systems for yourself to aggregate all this information without having to be glued to your phone or your computer 24/7. I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
curious.
the key word you use there is data aggregation. So you're right. A person can definitely be tied to their phone and their computer 24 hours a day because there's always something happening in the sports world, right? I always think back on Anchorman, the movie. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
one of the
stay classy, San Diego.
yeah, one of the scenes was with Will Ferrell basically shooting down the idea of ESPN because he's like, nobody's going to talk about sports. No one really cares about sports. That's too much to have a network just dedicated to sports. Obviously, it's like you know, a joke, but it happened, right? And it's not only ESPN now. There's several media companies that literally have made, you know, their money just focusing on sports news. So you're right. The aggregation of that type of news is really important. I think for me is I kind of people have betting signals. I have news signals.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like there's things that resonate with me and I think could impact the betting markets.
Yep.
And then there's just sports news that, in my opinion, is just fluff.
Yeah. Yep. And you have to figure out the signal from the noise.
Yeah.
Favorite Anchorman quote? Do you have one top of mind? I know the ESPN joke, the satire scene was a really good one.
Favorite Anchorman quote. I mean, the favorite scene is the fight scene.
The fight scene,
Yeah,
the
the fight
big,
scene
yeah.
outside. Yeah.
I love I'm a huge Paul Rudd fan.
Did you see the Tom Brady roast when Anchorman came back?
So I saw some of the Tom Brady roast, and that was actually I thought it was very well done. It was some controversial statements made around it, but yeah. Anyways, I didn't mean to divert. I thought it was really very well done. I did not see the
Yeah, Will Ferrell came back as the character from Anchorman.
Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, it's Ron Burgundy.
I did see some clips on that. Yeah, I think I was pulled in the direction of being fascinated when Belichick was out there because that relationship is hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump back into some of the personal stuff that I wanted to get to. You're running a business. You also have a full-time job. One of the things that I'm very curious about, and I'm sure listeners are too, with your family, what are some of the challenges that have arisen trying to balance what is kind of like the trifecta for you? You've got family, you know, wife and kids. You've got, I'm going to put it in order of importance, right? AnalyticsCapper, of course, is next.
Yeah.
And then you've got your full-time job.
Yeah.
I'm kind of joking, but you have that trifecta that you're balancing. Talk us through some of the dynamics with each of those, how you think through managing through them, and what may have arisen. What are some of the challenges that you've had to?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the way you look at it, Ryan, because you're right. They can be seen as challenges. For me, I think they're all blessings. I think, and at the same time, I think they all kind of help each other. So first and foremost, I have a very supportive family, very supportive wife. So they know if it's Super Bowl weekend, they know like I'm so focused on the game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I personally do not just want to be immersed in sports. So spending time with family or spending time with my daily work allows me to get away from it all. Another thing that really hampers bettors is the stress, right? So if you have 3 or 4 games that you're betting on for that day and you're following it all pitch by pitch, inning by inning,
you're sweating.
You're literally sweating, which is fun, especially when you win.
The bet sweats and the meat sweats.
Yeah, but it's not sustainable for like mental health.
No,
so
it's not. Yeah.
Me being able to spend time with my daughters, me being able to get away and travel for work, things like that, have really helped me become a better, sports handicapper, sports bettor. And it also gives me like grounding. Like at the end of the day, if I lose the Super Bowl pick, like there's another day. I still have my family. I still have my friends. So it's not like live or die for me.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it's a human tendency that a lot of people don't pick up on when we talk about stress. When you're stressed, it's clinically proven your decision making is worse.
Absolutely.
And so I think I try to counsel this, but mostly our partner success managers, Dash, one of them you've met, Mackins, who's came over, joined us from Underdog, and a couple other of the partner success managers always stress, guys, you gotta take a deep breath. Like I know it's some of the meditative stuff and whatever is taboo. But you look at some of the best athletes in the world do these meditative practices and have their outlets before they go to perform. I look at the Los Angeles the Lakers basketball team. When I was investing, they bought a corporate subscription to Headspace, which is a meditation app. And I was like, why are they doing that? But it was because the team would use it, you know, some more than others, some members of the team, they would use it to de-stress and just like get out of that mindset of frantic activity and frantic performance, because it depletes the output. And for you, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because it sounds like your family, spending time with girls and, you know, with your wife is an outlet for you to de-stress and come back the next day after maybe a really tough day or something where, let's say you went 0-3, whatever. I mean, it happens. You come back the next day, but you're coming at it with a clear head.
Yeah.
You're not coming at it with clouds and fog circling around your brain.
It's not only a clear head in terms of your decision making, because I fully agree with you. Like, this is our sport, right? We might not be professional basketball players, but this is something that A, we're competitive about.
Oh,
and
yes.
B, we're working towards, like, we're trying to better ourselves every day.
Yeah.
But the important thing about having a clear space is the openness to learn, right? You learn from your mistakes. If you're making the same mistakes from a betting perspective every single day, then you're never going to better yourself as a handicapper. So if you take that stress element away and you open yourself up to like learning and leveraging other folks as well, like what they've learned and their lessons, like you just become better as a person, and then also obviously better as a bettor too.
Yeah, that is also, I mean, you're bringing up some fantastic points from a business standpoint too. I always think about how much I have a framework that I use with our team, and it's a learning framework. Like, they report out what they're learning, like what's the progress, what problems have they encountered, what's the plan to address the problem. And the idea with that is the best products, the best companies, the best experiences are built from constant learning. That you can never be satisfied. And that's a thing that, I know I keep bringing up Jeff Bezos on this podcast, the founder of Amazon, but that's something he stressed. If anyone wants to get out, you know, and be a little nerdy, read through his shareholder letters, because they're awesome. Like, if anyone's interested in building a business or ever raising capital or having clients and is motivated and competitive, I mean, Bezos' shareholder letters are fascinating in the sense of every year it's always, what'd we try? What'd we learn? How are we going to get better? And you can just see that compound now over 30 years, where it's like that you can't compete with a company that has that mentality, nor the individuals that have those mentalities. And so I think in your business, your line of business, you've been able to do what you do for 5 years now because you have that growth mindset and that learning mindset.
Yeah, and the beauty of all this, Ryan, is because of social media and technology, the way to get to success can be different for everybody.
That's right.
Right? So it doesn't matter if you're really good in front of a camera or you're really good at articulating how you're feeling. At the end of the day, this is a win or lose type of thing, right? So if you're profitable after the year is over, then, I mean, you're going to rise to the top. And I think that's the beauty of this all. Sure, there's going to be people who are very good at marketing themselves and leveraging the tools that they have, but at the end of the day, like, you have the data points, you have the results, and the win-loss record, and that's all that matters.
What do you think of the content creators in this space, many of whom we work with? So I'm kind of previewing the question to see what your take will be on this. But what do you think of some of the premium sports content creators in this space that may not view themselves as a traditional handicapper in the sense of handicapper, but are more younger type of personas that want to curate a community, and it's really about the vibe and not as much the plays or the win-loss record? Yeah,
it's a different world from the world I grew up in, right? So for those who don't know, I'm turning 40 this year.
Woohoo.
Right?
It's all right, you're a decade ahead.
So it's 20 years since college. Back then, the way for us to hang out was either watch a game, go to a bar, and just hang out with your friends, meet up girls, whatever the case is.
The old school ways, man. Yeah. Miss those days.
The community nowadays is, let's go on a stream and watch this together and chat with each other. That's right. Yeah. Again, that's generals or generalizing, but at the same time, like, it's a different way of consuming content and a different way of building that sense of community. So to answer your question, the younger persona who can take a the younger persona that can really take advantage of that and also like build their own community, like more power to them, because
Yep.
that's amazing. As long as they're moving the industry forward, they're building a community and creating a negative vibe or a negative connotation. Like those are the folks that I don't want to associate myself with.
For sure.
But if you're moving things forward, if you're being positive, like those are the things that I want to attach myself to as well.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, one of our company values, which I try to infuse in our users and our partners, is we win more together, right?
Yeah.
Like the together, all caps. That's really important. And there's a line in our company values we have 3 values: customer obsession, collaboration, clarity. Customer obsession, you kind of get it. Collaboration is like the first line is like positive vibes only.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want any of the BS. Life is all about momentum. The moment that someone tries to bring you down, it's like, just get out, like get rid of it, right? Like you're only so good as the direction that you continue to move forward in. I say that because I want to call out a couple of awesome DubClub owners. If you haven't subscribed to these guys, you should. I think you might have met them in New York, the Parlay Cafe.
Yeah.
David and Dre. Yeah. They're amazing. It's such a cool duo. I did a podcast with them a while ago, not in person. I'm going to get them out here soon, but David, Dre was kind of like the instigator of it, and he had his following, but he's an actor. Like he's actually on, I forget the show he's going to be on. I think it's like something about Dr. Phil. I forget, but he's going to be on a pretty well-known show soon. Mm-hmm. And he has really good media first personality. Like you said, not all these people, they don't all have to have it. Mm-hmm. But then you have David, who's his business partner in the Parlay Cafe. And David has the social media background. Like he's spent a lot of time as a social media manager at very relevant like sports media companies. So you have these 2 guys that are just creating awesome content and curating a really good community, and they're always positive. One of the other members that I don't know if you've met him before, but his name's Sriracha DFS.
Not yet.
Yeah, he has an awesome community. He's been doing this for 8 years, and he's very young. So like a lot of what he's done is he's had to battle with like a lot of, he was on this podcast a couple weeks ago, a lot of like frustrating experiences, having to deal with the negativity in the community. And, we're constantly talking, me and him, through ways to just counteract that BS and ignore it and elevate yourself really above it. Yeah. That's, I think, the big negative with the concept of a community. But I want to give a big shout out to those dub clubs. There's many, many more. I mean, I can talk. D Rose, if you've been in his dub club too, he came over to us. He used to use Patreon. Very different vibes. So there's a lot of really good stuff going on. But I agree with a lot of the statements that you're making. It's kind of a different dichotomy. There's folks that are building businesses like you. There are folks that are building businesses that they have more time on their hands, which I think is a big difference. Yeah. I think you don't have much time. You have a full-time job, which is pretty tremendous. I kind of want to talk about that and how you got into your full-time job and how that plays into some of your personal and business life with AnalyticsCapper. How much are you willing to share when it comes to what you do and who you are behind the scenes of the real like corporate work life? Yeah,
so I went to a lot of school. I'll say that first and foremost.
How many years of schooling did you go through?
So I did the undergrad route, then I got a business degree, then I got a law degree. So it's like a lot of school, right?
Man, don't cross this guy. He's got everything under his belt.
It's a combination of like I truly, genuinely enjoy what I do from a day-to-day basis, but also like I don't want to just give up all that sacrifice that I've done, right? Yeah. In terms of school, finances, things like that. So it's a combination of that, but being able to, so I'm in the legal and consulting world. So being able to like go into a meeting with executives and present something or own the room or read the room, whatever the case is, like those are soft skills that you don't get anywhere else. No. So those are things that I truly, truly am grateful for. And at the same time, we talked about this earlier, I do think it helps me with the sports aspect, right? Because it allows me to hear everybody's perspectives, whether they're betting or not, because sports always comes up in conversation. Yep. And then at the same time, I can see things from a perspective that is not just sports betting, right? Which is really important because, again, we talked about it, but clear head, clear mind, good decision making, things like that. And because I only have 3, 4, 5 plays max a day, I'm truly not living and dying each day by the results,
Yep.
because I know in the long term it's going to all work out.
Yeah, it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
What do you consider when you walk out of a meeting that you just did a presentation for? What do you consider to be a good meeting where you're like, man, I crushed that?
Yeah, being in sales and consulting, the number one thing you want to accomplish is to have a follow-up meeting. So
if they already agree to it,
yeah,
like,
if
that was
you
good.
had a really positive 30 minutes or 60 minutes of their time, and they're like, Albert, I can't wait to speak to you again, or I'm super
Yeah.
excited to learn more about this, you've done your job.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, resonates with me throughout life, to be honest, right? Because I'm actually not a social person. I'm not an extrovert. We all took the Myers-Briggs test, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm the same boat.
Yeah, I'm
Naturally not.
INFJ, so introvert.
I'm the exact same.
Yeah, there you go. So it's like,
it's like thoughtful, but like if you need to be, you can. Like they
when
call
you
it a
put us-
chameleon, right?
Yeah, when you put us in a room where we have to put on our social hat,
Yeah.
we have no problems doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up because it definitely helps with other aspects of life.
It does, and it also, I mean, that type of personality is reflective, but also can use some of that reflective, thoughtfulness to naturally be good at stuff like sales. And as you notice, like CEO is a sales position. I mean, you're in multiple sales positions. You're selling your AnalyticsCapper products all the time, and you're also going in and selling executives at, I won't say the names, but very large publicly traded companies, which is really, really, really exciting. Tracking back to you and your wife's relationship, because you've mentioned her a couple times and the kids. How did you guys meet? How did you meet your wife, and what's the meet cute story?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Dallas, and then I went to school out in California, which you guys know.
Yep.
But I decided to move back to Texas after all my schooling. But when I decided to do that, I was like, okay, I'm always gonna have my high school friends, and they're my best friends to this day, right?
That's awesome. I just want to pause on that. I know we're going to talk about you and your wife's meeting story, but that's pretty amazing. Like I'm not publicizing myself, but I've also done the graduate school route, all at the same school. I went undergrad and then 4 years later graduate. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it is remarkable that the relationships, you have different level of schooling and different relationships at different points in life, and how much your core high school friend group just never changes.
Yeah,
it's like they're just all the same.
It's your core, like you said, and it's your childhood formative years.
Yep.
But when I moved back to Dallas, so this is like early 2010s, I told myself I want to branch out. I want to do other stuff. So that's when I started doing like scuba diving, cooking classes, things like that. So I'm
a rescue diver. I love scuba diving.
Yeah. So I was PADI certified. I've never used it. I got certified and everything, but I've never
never dove.
I've never gone to Cozumel and dove. None of that.
Wow. Okay.
We gotta do that.
We'll figure it out. My dad was he was in the Army for several years. Did some SEAL training. Got certified back then. He's a master scuba diver, so he's certified. I talk about my high school friends. I think he certified 9 of my high school friends.
Yeah.
Oh
my goodness, that's amazing.
When we were on a family trip post high school graduation. So if you're ever interested, I highly recommend the Caribbean. If you're Cozumel's not beautiful. Yeah, I mean Cayman Islands is kind of like my go-to.
Yeah.
It's beautiful water. It's warm. It's like 85 degrees. You don't even need to wear a wetsuit.
Oh man.
Yeah, we got to get you out there now that I know you're certified.
I'm in.
Yeah. My parents live in Dallas. They live, it's about 40 minutes outside of Dallas.
Okay.
So when I'm down there visiting, we can't dive off of that coast, but we can, take a short flight and do what we need to be doing. I'm actually going diving in December with my dad's certifying one of our partners, DubClub partners, Dorm Room Degenerates. Yeah, you'll see it. We're going to do some CEO Corner podcast.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Where are you guys going?
Cayman Islands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Grand Cayman. I've been going there every year since I was a kid. It's 7 Mile Beach. Highly recommend.
Yeah.
I would publicize that till the cows come home.
Yeah, so I was picking up like different hobbies and different things to do, and one of the things was cooking, and so that's how I met my wife. She's everybody says they're foodies, but my wife is a true
to another
foodie.
level.
Like she was a chemistry major at Texas, and then she worked for a food and beverage company doing R&D for food. Like this is her thing.
So she loves the way it's made and the ingredients that go in. What the ingredients that went into your guys' relationship.
Nice.
I was trying to think of the right way to say that. Tell me about you guys met when at a cooking class. It sounds
Yeah.
like. Uh, how did that blossom?
I mean, obviously, like physical attraction is first and foremost, and then like this was early 2010, so the only way you can really talk, we didn't have the dating apps that you have nowadays.
Yeah.
So it's literally through like MySpace or
Carrier pigeon? No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
yeah, texting each other. And the cool thing about her that like really hit me was because so she's 4 years younger than me, but she grew up basically in the same area as I did.
Yep.
So the things that she was talking about, the places that she would go and hang out and eat, I was like, maybe we crossed paths like along the way, and I
Yeah.
felt like that kind of like really like put us together. Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys were able to bond over shared
Yeah.
past experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Very similar to me and my girlfriend.
Cool.
What's your best meal?
Man, my best meal. So we did our honeymoon in Japan. If you haven't been to Japan, there's a Michelin star restaurant literally at every corner. Whether it's a $10 meal
I
or
wonder why everyone's telling me to go to Japan.
yeah, it ranges from a $10 meal to a $1,000 meal. It depends on what type of service and what kind of food you want.
Wow.
But the cleanliness of, let's say you're a sushi guy, of the cuts
Yeah, I love sushi, yeah.
is unbeatable. But then like the way that they focus on the service and like the intricacies of the plating, all of that it's literally second to none. So Japan was amazing. I felt like every restaurant we had was really good, but my favorite would be having Kobe beef in Kobe, Japan. Like
Oh,
it's like yeah, generational type stuff.
I'm really glad you answered it like that, but I meant what is your best meal to cook?
Oh, for me to cook.
Yeah. Like
if-
what are if you were treating me and
Oh, okay.
half the Dub Club team to dinner,
Yeah.
because I don't think you could be able to fit them all in your house. Maybe you could. What would you make for us? What would be the go-to meal?
I think I make a pretty good beef Wellington.
Ooh.
So I sous vide the beef, right? So you kind of cook it in water.
Yeah, explain that to me. I don't know. You said sous vide?
Yeah, so sous vide, for those who don't know,
SOUVE with a long that like thing.
VIDE, VIDE. Yeah, so it's
VIDE.
it's a
Oh, sous
French,
vide.
yeah, it's a French method
Glad you spelled that out.
cooking steak. So you cook the steak, and then the breading or the wrapping is pretty easy. I'm more of a flaky guy, so I like flaky beef Wellington.
Yep.
But it's all in that meat, and when you sous vide the meat, it's beautiful.
Oh man, I'm hungry. We're gonna get some food after this. What's your wife's best meal? Because it sounds like she has a real interest in cooking some interesting stuff.
She has a real interest in eating. I wouldn't say in cooking, right? She doesn't really cook much. But
Do
if
you
she,
cook in the family between the two of you?
I mean, we share, but I would say I do more of like the cooking for me and her.
Yeah.
But like the simple stuff for the kids, that's like all my wife.
Yeah. Okay.
But if I had to choose what her best dish to make is actually like fresh ceviche.
Oh man, that sounds
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's not overly complicated, but to do it well,
Yeah.
you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, like you
And
eat it
gotta
with
know.
chips, bread, rice, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
I like the
Or ceviche.
plantain chips with
Yeah.
the ceviche, like some tuna in there. And yeah. I'm getting too hungry, so we're gonna move on. I want to get to a section that I love, and I know our listeners will love. It's generally just learning more about you as a bettor, right? And you as a manager of money. Talk to me about one of the largest bets you've cashed and why you made that play.
Yes, so I was on Michigan, the most recent national title game, for $80,000, and that was I don't know. It depends on where you are in life, but that was a lot of money for me, and
That is a lot of money, I think, for anyone.
and that was stretched across, I think, 6 or 7 different sports books. So it wasn't 80,000 on one book. It was like 8 here, 12 here, 10 here,
All on Michigan?
all on Michigan. And then I pressed the second half, and they demolished them in the second half.
Yeah.
But
talk about what press means for people that don't know.
yeah, so whether you're in gambling or not, a good example is blackjack. So let's say you win a hand for $10 on blackjack. You either take your bets back or you let it ride, and that's called pressing. You either keep the 10 that you want on there, or you take a little bit back. So pressing from a sports handicapping perspective, in my opinion, is if you're on Michigan for the full game, they look great. It's a halftime score where you think you can get a little more value. I press the second half bet as well. So now I have multiple positions on Michigan. But
You put more money down.
yeah, I put more money down. But Ryan, I don't know, I can't speak for other bettors, but I remember more of my losses than my wins.
Yep.
Even though I won 80,000 on that Michigan game, I remember it to this day. I lost over six figures on a Sacramento Kings regular season NBA game where they were up 6 points late in the game. They were playing the Charlotte Hornets, and LaMelo Ball actually committed a flagrant foul. So now the Kings are up six. They're getting 2 free throws and a ball,
Yeah.
and they lost the game.
How much time was left?
Like 15 seconds.
Did you watch the whole game?
I watched it.
How the heck did they lose?
And I was in bed with my wife, so I was watching it like silent on mute, and I couldn't react. It was the worst. I'll remember that.
Was she
beat.
asleep?
Yeah, I'll remember that beat for the rest of my life.
That is a bad beat.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they were up 6 free throws and a ball and lost the game.
Now, the thing that's really hard with something like that is, yeah, everyone wants to learn from their mistakes, but like, did you make a mistake, or did the world just happen? You know,
Yeah,
like, that's what's really tough about what you do. You could do all the things right. You can make all the right calls, and it just doesn't go your way.
At the end of the day, these are humans playing sports, and
Yes.
the human element still reigns supreme. So you're right. Like, De'Aaron Fox went 0 for 2 on the free throw line. PJ Washington hit 2 threes, one at the buzzer to bring it to overtime, and the Kings end up
And then
losing in
it
overtime at home.
unraveled. Yeah. At that point, I would have been like, okay, this is done. Because momentum, I mean, it totally shifted.
Yeah.
Let's rewind the clock back to, do you remember the Super Bowl, the Seahawks-Pats?
Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch was there. It was, I think it was 1st and goal, and Pete Carroll called a pass. They had like, I think 40, I don't know, some like plenty of time left with a timeout. And Pete Carroll called a pass, and it got intercepted. I'm bringing us back to that moment because all of the statistics and any which way, shape, or form you could have cut that decision suggests that was actually the right call. But because it got intercepted, which was a less than 2% probability, everyone thought Pete Carroll was a dunce.
Yeah.
And I'm rewinding to that because I think it's really important for people to understand that, again, like, I'm not, don't mean to relate you to Pete Carroll, but, I think at the same time, like, you guys we're all making decisions based off of like the inputs that we have. It's just a matter of, everyone relates the outcome to the mistake. And I think a lot of your clients probably get upset when things don't go your way. It's like, guys, let me just revisit the 5-minute conversation you and I had earlier in this podcast that goes through your rigorous research process, which is using a lot of experience and gut feel, but also uses a lot of other data points, and recognize that the outcome was just the outcome. Like, it just that's just how it
beauty,
happens.
right? That's the beauty of handicapping is the Seahawks can be in that position 100 times.
Yeah.
And that pass being the right decision. Again, that can be up to conjecture or debate. But if they win 80 out of those 100 times, Pete Carroll is now a 2-time Super Bowl coach.
And he's a genius.
Russell Wilson is a 2-time Super Bowl winning, quarterback. Like, their careers would be completely different, and Brady's career might be different.
Exactly.
Right.
It's one less ring.
Yeah, it's just sports.
I love the political answer that you gave of whether or not, a subject to debate. Yeah.
I mean, you have beast mode in the backfield.
All right. So let's hear the debate. Because I get the other. But then if Marshawn doesn't score on that play, when everyone in their right mind theoretically is expecting them to hand the ball to him, what happens is the clock runs.
Yeah.
So I think this comes down to what possible outcomes could happen if you throw. caught for a touchdown, because you're not going to make a 2-yard pass that's behind the line of scrimmage. They were running a slant. It's dropped, which stops the clock, and you have second and goal, which you can hand to Marshawn, or it's intercepted.
Yeah.
So 2 of those 3 is actually a positive, and the third is a very low probability.
Yeah.
If you hand to Marshawn, he either scores, he doesn't, which doesn't stop the clock, or he fumbles, which would be the same situation. So you have 2 negatives, technically.
Yeah, I think
I'm a data guy.
From a data analytics perspective, it makes a lot of sense to throw there, and you see that in today's NFL.
Yeah, that's right.
We rewind.
And it's cool because you can see it in real time now on the live broadcast. They show you what is it like?
Go for it or
I'm like, that's boring. Like, I don't want to know. I want to see what the coach does.
But there's also the athletic point of view, which is if your team needs a yard and you played football, like go get a yard. Like don't stretch it out. Don't throw a fade. Like
it's funny because I agree with you, but I'm playing devil's advocate for the standpoint of just remaining objective.
Yeah.
You know, because I think people can get really upset when things don't go their way, but the reality is like, hey, like we actually maximized the probability that we'd give you a better prediction, and it didn't go our way. So it is reality. Albert, talk to me a little bit about what you spend your money on.
Yeah, so I'm a big, we talked about this offline a little bit, but life hasn't really changed too much for me and my family. Sure, we're traveling on nicer, we're staying in nicer hotels, things like that. Yep. But bare bones of it hasn't really changed because a lot of the money that I've made in sports betting is being reinvested, right? So either into properties or assets where, it should grow throughout the years. So a lot of that. But there are 1 or 2 things where I've indulged into, and that's very recently I've gotten into wristwatches. So,
okay.
Rolexes.
What do you got on? Is that an Apple Watch?
No, this is just an Apple Watch. But
I mean, remarkably, Apple sold. This is a stat I saw last night. In 2019, Apple sold more watches than the entire Swiss watch industry.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it.
One of my buddies, I texted him, he works at Apple Watch. I'm like, congrats, man. I sent him a screenshot.
Yeah. So this year I bought my first Rolex, which was like a big deal for me. Yeah. And then what's even crazier was a month later I bought a Patek, and that's like a different level I never thought I would get, but I told myself I worked really hard, and this is something that I could just pass down.
Yeah.
Right. So
you see it as an investment.
It's definitely something that's not going to lose its value.
That's right. Yeah. Jewelry, real estate. I mean, there are certain things that are really, really good investments. And you're obviously a very practical person with regards to that. And when you say pass down to
generations or, I have 3 daughters, so I don't have a son to pass it to, but I have a really close nephew that we're close to that.
Maybe your daughters find an interest in watches.
Yeah, maybe, or a future son-in-law, something like that.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. You can also start investing in jewelry, like, bracelets for your daughter. I don't know. Just an idea. Hopefully they don't listen to this podcast. Be like, Dad, I want some more jewelry.
I do buy my wife like designer bags.
Yeah, there you go.
But the thing with that is another example where the value doesn't go down at all. Mm-hmm. In fact, value of designer bags go up probably quicker than anything in terms of tangible assets we have.
Pretty amazing because, like, I'm not like a manufacturer analyst or whatever, but like, they're just brands. Mm-hmm. Like, is there anything special about those products that you can see or tell? When I obviously am not at the place where I'm buying that stuff. I don't even think my girlfriend would want them, to be honest. Which I like. Yeah,
it's a very interesting like dichotomy with it all, but it's usually like a pivotal moment. So there's a brand out there, Dior.
Yeah, I know Dior. Yeah,
that is like famous because Princess Diana used to wear them.
That's right.
Right, or let's say.
So it's like the influencer brings around the brand.
Yeah. Let's say, I don't know, George Kittle wears LV tomorrow. Like that specific LV bag might hit it, right, in terms of the market. So there's just going to be different.
I get that. I used to, this, like I used to play with Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, and I always follow him on Instagram, and there's a lot of like product centered, sponsorship. I mean, I know
Very
Christian personally,
intentional.
but I also would still buy because that's like if he uses it, I respect him. But as an athlete, and at first, like,
Yeah.
all right, you guys got me right.
And
Like
that
that's
guy
the
was
easiest way for them to
that guy was
get
a
there.
beast in college. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
beast
he
now
was.
still,
He
but
was. Yeah, he's incredible. I mean, I could
yeah,
do a whole podcast about like my
yeah,
observations. Like you know, when I first met him, and he was coming in from Colorado, like white running back. It
yeah,
was kind of like, yeah, okay, you know, this is really interesting. And then you just see his work ethic.
yeah.
And I actually shared, I don't know if he remembers this, but I shared a locker next to him my freshman year, or sorry, his freshman year, my sophomore year. It was me, Christian, and then my buddy Pat McFadden. We call him Pootsy.
Uh-huh.
And Pat was a, like, you know, white walk-on running back. So like Christian, Pat, very different in terms of
Yeah.
like,
Pedigree and
yeah, pedigree,
talent
build,
level.
talent
Yeah.
level. Yeah, you know, both absolute characters and awesome people. But what was really fascinating was just like watching Christian totally take it up a notch. Honestly, again, like versus all the other people on the team, it was like,
Yeah.
whoa, this guy is like on top of his stuff. And then he started true freshman year, and he started like a couple games out of the backfield. We had Tyler Gaffney back then, I think. I don't know if you know that name. But like he was one of the best running backs in Stanford's last couple of decades.
Yeah.
And then Christian kind of stepped in, and sophomore year he took the reins and never looked back. I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like you knew he was just gonna be special. But anyways, this podcast I can go deep into all the observations I made, what I learned from him. He's a great guy generally, but sells a good product on Instagram,
Yeah.
which is back to these things. These products are brands at the end of the day, and it kind of comes back to like what you all are selling as premium sports content creators. Like you're selling an experience to deliver to more and more people that help them,
Yeah.
and they have to believe in you as essentially like quote unquote the influencer at the end of the day. And you're partnering up with brands like DubClub who want to leverage a lot of that power. But anyways, let's keep moving on in this category. If you place the bet tomorrow, let's say you put in $500,000. You want to, you know, put it in big.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah,
one day.
you get there, and it cashes for $1 million. Because I know you don't do these parlays, but let's say you find something where there's a lot of value, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you spend that money? Would it be any different, or would it be still a very practical approach to your life now?
Yeah, it would definitely be practical, but I also do believe like money won, you do want to like kind of congratulate yourself and
That's right.
buy yourself.
It's found money at the end of the day. Yeah.
Buy yourself something nice. Obviously, you want to put 80, 90% of that away and kind of let it grow. Whatever form or facet that is, that's your prerogative. But definitely like for me, if I was in Vegas, right, I have a sushi spot. If I have a hot run at the blackjack table, or if I have a really good betting day, there's a sushi spot off the strip in Chinatown that I go to. I love the chef there. So I'll definitely indulge in terms of food, and then we'll have a really nice night out that night.
Are you like an omakase kind of guy, or do you
Yeah.
have a specific order? You're like, all right, chef, give me what your best.
It depends on the restaurant, but if the chef is like world renowned, it's $500 a head. Like I'm gonna defer to the chef.
Yeah.
Give me what
Yes,
you
chef.
think. Yeah, give me what you think is gonna be the best experience for me for that night. And
Yeah.
the beauty of omakase, for those who don't know, is the menu changes literally on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
It depends on what they get in that day, fresh. It depends on like the age of the rice when we're talking about sushi, things like that. So the chef is gonna know more than me, the eater.
Yeah, I feel like as a consumer going into a sushi spot, it's your best bet, pun intended, to order the chef's special, the omakase.
Yeah.
Because they're incentivized as the business to give you the best options for what you provide them as your preferences, so that maybe one day you come back.
Yeah.
Or you tell someone else about it. But if you order something off the menu that they have no control over, you know, it could be really good, right? Like maybe, but
It's cookie cutter. It's
it's like
not special.
exactly.
Like you said, it could be really good, but yeah, I'm a omakase guy for sure.
Also good ordering the omakase after a big win, because that shit's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's why I usually order off the regular menu, even though I wish I could do omakase every time.
We'll do it in Vegas. You take me
Yeah,
diving.
so-
You take me diving in the Caymans. I'll
You'll
take you
treat me
to
to
Vegas.
sushi.
Yeah, I'll take you to Vegas. We'll go to my sushi spot.
There's a really we go diving in the Caymans. I'll take you to Tycoon in the Cayman Islands.
All right.
Amazing sushi spot. They do
Deal.
it well there. Probably not the same as Japan, but maybe comparable to
Yeah,
Vegas. I don't know.
I believe it.
We've talked a lot about your business and your clients, and I haven't asked yet about some of the positives and the case studies that you've observed with your clients. I mean, you're a consultant, right? Like consultants use, let me show you this case study I did with X, Y, and Z client. But with you, it's like you probably have a lot of instances with your clients where you've really helped them out. Is there anything that stands out, any like big memory or big win that they've used to do something either crazy or really foundational to their life?
Yeah, there's two subscribers to my business that have been subscribing with me since the first day.
That's cool.
And it's amazing because we're on like first name basis now. We have our personal numbers, so we like literally we're friends now. Even
Yeah.
though
Have you ever met them?
I've met one of them in person.
That's
but
really cool.
I brought these two people up because after a year of going through my service, they both quit their full-time jobs and they do this full-time. So I know
Do this as in bet on sports?
they bet on
using
sports
your advice.
and use my advice. I would say full transparency. They're probably using other people as well.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But
yeah.
they're using me as a primary source of information or a data aggregator, like you
right.
mentioned.
Yeah.
They quit their jobs, and they both are married, by the way. Quit their jobs, and they moved to a state where it's legal, so they can have all the outlets and options. So those two guys, and you guys know who you are. Like shout out to you guys, super supportive people. And yeah, every time I'm in town, like I treat them out to dinner. We hang out. So those two, definitely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Can you give an idea of what state they moved to? Legal betting?
Yeah. One is in Pennsylvania,
Nice. Okay.
and then the other one is in the Northeast. Yeah.
Yeah, great. That is really cool. Yeah, having them from Devon, it's years now that they've been chugging along with you, and I'm sure others are probably wishing, the ones that joined more recently are probably like, dang, I wish I had known about this earlier.
You just got to treat it like a full-time job, right?
Yep.
Maybe it's not 9 to 5, it's not 9 hours of your day, but if you treat it as a true like stream of income, then you're going to put the time and effort that it requires to make money. Yeah.
If price wasn't an object, what would you buy all your clients? You each get them the same gift. Price is not an object. What do you think reflects or represents their personality best?
Oh man, that's a tough question, Ryan. I would say the biggest thing for me is like helping people out. So my gift doesn't matter what that number is. Like I would love to take care of their debt.
Yeah.
Credit card debt, student debt, mortgage, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I would love to be in a situation, I mean, knock on wood, like in a utopian society where I could just like knock out their debt. That's whether through the betting aspect of it or just like, community gifts, things like that. Yeah.
So you'd wipe out any personal liability they
Super
have.
practical, man. Like
You're amazing, man. Like that's awesome. That is awesome. Let me ask now. One of the last questions I want to get to on this podcast is related to the NFL season and what we're looking at right now. And this, we're not going to hold you to any of this, but I am very curious if there's anything that you're seeing early on in any of the teams that may or may not have been favorites coming into the year. Who can I keep my eye on to make a run late in the season?
Yeah, so your partner Lewis asked me this a couple weeks ago. It's week 1. It was just the first half of the first game of the season, and
I really hope you didn't say the Bears.
And the Bills were down. And I was like, this is kind of like the year where a team you used to really love the last 3 or 4 seasons, and Josh Allen was a disappointment.
Oh, the Bills are my favorite team.
And okay,
Yeah.
well, I think it's a great
So be
spot for
nice.
them, right? It's a great spot for them where their eyes are off now. I mean, the more they win, the more expectations are going to mount
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Like they're
But
3-0 now. They just crushed the Jaguars.
Yeah,
put
but
them
they
in the
lost like stars, right? They lost Steph Diggs. They
Yeah.
lost Gabriel Davis, their center. Like
Yeah.
all these things, and people were kind of writing them off. Well, this
Yeah.
is a great opportunity. Another team that I would say is a potential, maybe not to win it all, but I would say there's always 1 or 2 teams a year that surprises someone and makes a big run, right? Last year was CJ Stroud and the Texans. I remember RG3 and the Redskins, or Commanders now, but Redskins
Yeah.
back then.
Oh
I
man,
mean,
throwing it back.
Jaden Daniels has that
Huh.
feel about him right now.
Oh, all right.
And the NFC East is
Just beat
not as
Joe
good.
Burrow yesterday.
Yeah, the NFC East is not as good as people are envisioning heading into the season, right?
No.
The Eagles have a lot of flaws, the Cowboys have a lot of flaws, so the Washington football team, the Commanders, might have a legitimate shot.
That is a good take. They have Eckler now too.
Yeah.
He got hurt last night.
Yeah.
I think he got another concussion. He's had so many concussions.
Yeah. And he's an entrepreneur, so I'm always
Rooting
pulling for
for him.
someone like that. Yeah.
A lot of these guys are entrepreneurs. I mean, I talked to my buddy Justin Reed, who's the Chiefs safety, and he's getting into real estate now. I mean, they need to do something with their money. So,
Yeah.
what better way to do it than invest in things that you can build?
Yeah.
You know, he has a nonprofit organization that he's helping to start. It's pretty awesome. Obviously, that's for tax purposes too, so there's some benefit. What do you think about the Tua situation with how many concussions he's had? And if this is a question you may not be prepared to answer, just let me know. But I'm kind of curious if you have a take on whether he should just hang up the cleats, whether he should keep going, whether we should leave it up to the doctors. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm not a physician, I'm not a neurologist, so I can't speak to you in terms of like the science behind it. But there is like clear evidence that those type of like grade A concussions that we saw on national TV does lead to brain damage.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, money is nice and it's going to give you like opportunities that you wouldn't have without it, but you still want to be able to walk. You still want to be able to hang out with your family. And then there's worse scenarios where, you know, people get violent because of their PTSD and things like that. So my take is, as a human, like I would appreciate it if he just stepped away.
Yeah.
But I know that's hard. That's really hard to really talk about because we're talking about sports and sports betting. It's going to impact a lot of the Miami Dolphins. It's going to impact the coach, the staff, the ownership, like everything that they've built, you know, in South Beach around Tua. Because we've seen
They just
the
signed him up
Dolphins-
to a huge contract.
Yeah, we've seen the Dolphins with Tua, the number one offense in the league.
Yeah.
Which is what we saw last year.
Yeah.
And we saw the Dolphins without Tua the last 2 weeks, and they're terrible on offense. So, it's a tough decision, but like as a human, as a fellow father, like I would like for him to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the position he's in making this
Yeah.
decision too, because he just invested over a year in jiu-jitsu training and how to fall not landing on his head, and that's a lot of opportunity cost that one individual gives up for a job.
Yeah.
You know, that's like you know, it's probably not the same, but I want to relate that to the equivalent of if you know, for you running your premium sports content business, let's say you had to travel 4 days of the week every week and be away from your family in order to like grow this business and be better and provide for your family and do something that you know you're destined to do. And you have to make a decision, you know, thereafter, after investing all of that time and energy and making those sacrifices that it's just going to live with you the rest of your life. Like, wow, I just gave up 4 years of my life traveling every week.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say goodbye with so much left on the table. That's what he has to deal with. And like, I relate from an athlete standpoint, it's like, that's tough. Like that is really, really hard for him to have to do. I saw that Andrew Luck did this. You know, Andrew was the quarterback at Stanford a couple years before me, probably one of the best quarterbacks that's ever come through college football.
Yeah. And one of the smartest. Yeah.
Amazing. I actually just bought a bar in Palo Alto that we all used to love going to. It's
okay.
awesome. It's
That's
called
cool.
The Old Pros. So I'm so happy you bought it. But anyways, he had to make the tough decision to retire, and there's still so much gas left in the tank for him.
Oh yeah.
But he did it early enough where it's like he went back to school. Like I saw him, I was at the Stanford GSP. I literally saw him biking around like a helmet. I was like, is that Andrew Luck? What the heck? But yeah, he's doing his thing and living his life. And I think it's like you're Tua as well, like in his 30s.
No, he's not even that old yet.
Jeez.
And I would say if
20,
you're,
he's 28, 27?
Yeah,
I think he was my year.
I would say if you're business savvy enough, and then more importantly, if you're going to surround yourself with smart business people and money people, you can leverage what you've already made. I'm talking about Tua, and make more outside of football.
That's right.
Right? I'm sure Andrew Luck does completely fine for himself without playing for the Colts right now.
That's exactly right. And he probably has a lot more time for his family and being there. And
No.
yes. All right. So we're going to end it on a bit of a less somber note and talk one last time about how you would turn a losing sports bettor into a winning more sports bettor.
Yeah. So I think there's a few things you want to highlight. One is you want to leverage a myriad of different ways to get to your end result or your end decision. It's not just analytics, it's not just models, it's not just or simply narratives and trends. And you want to take a compilation of everything. So I think that's the most important. The second thing that, if you want to be a long-term bettor, and I feel like I do this really well. I mean, you see in my data is you take the emotion out of it. So you're not betting on the team that you were a fan of, right? So I grew up in Dallas. I'm not betting on the Cowboys every week, right? So take that out of it, take the emotion out of it, and at the end of the day, you need to trust your own analysis and the principles that you kind of like land on and learn from those. Because again, if you're gonna have 4 to 5 bets a day and you're consistently going 1-4 or 2-3,
Yep.
you got to figure out why. And those small little changes can really flip the day and flip how your outlook on sports. So I think that to me is really important. And then I've been very, very grateful and very fortunate to work with DubClub, right? DubClub, if you guys don't know, like they have amazing leaders. The people are there who are looking out for your best interests, which is really, really different. I think that's what separates you guys from the competition, to be honest. And now that I've met all the leaders and most of your staff, like face to face, like I can tell you guys are down to earth. I can tell you guys are, again, looking after our best interests. And also, like, they know, you guys understand, if we're successful, everybody's successful, the company is successful. I know it's very cliche, but when you win more together, literally, it happens organically. Yeah.
That's right. You hit the nail on the head. I don't know how else to funnel up with that, but it sounds like, just to summarize, a couple of things, actually trio of things: turning a losing sports bettor into winning sports bettor, objective, not emotional decision making, using your inputs, trust yourself, right? And that's also trusting the person you're subscribing to and who's giving you the information. And then last but not least, utilize DubClub, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why we exist. I mean, it's to take people that know what they're talking about and connect them with people who need to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have this beautiful combination of people that now make more informed sports betting decisions. And everyone wins more together. It's a lot more fun. You make more money, they make more money, we make more money. It's not always about making money, but it's definitely about losing less money. I think that could help out a lot of people.
Yeah, if you're doing this just for fun, it's a lot more fun when you're winning.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's more fun when you're winning more, you know, like I think that's what this is all about. And that's what's super, super important. Like we're not promising that people are going to come in and get rich. You're not promising that with your service. You're just like, hey, look, I'm giving good advice and I'm going to help you out. And that's what it's all about. That's why people pay you. Exactly. At the end of the day, that's why anyone pays any type of consultant. So you're giving them better information. You're not helping fix the world's problems, you know.